Okay, so another part in this series of optimization and I guess just changing an object from nanite to, in this example, a skeletal mesh. And then we're going to apply chaos cloth. And, the objects in question right here is this one. This is a static mesh with like 270,000 triangles or something crazy. And it's just staying up here, and then it's got a material function that's causing it to blow, which means it's just going to repeat this same material function cycle over and over and over. This looks great for performance, especially for things that aren't like in your immediate interaction. But if you have cloth that you're going to be interacting with that is still, let's call it semi-dynamic. So maybe a good example of this would be like this, where it's on the wall and you want to run up and like this to blow around, but it's also anchored up here so that it won't blow around too much or look too ridiculous. Okay, so we'll get through this really quick. We're just going to go to our environment, mesh, prop. And then we have a variety of different cloths here. And I mean, like, again, the ideal one to do this with would be this one. Or something like that, because it's fairly linear. This one especially. It's got like a hard edge. So it would be really easy to paint this so that this part moves and this part doesn't when it comes to the skeletal mesh, and that would be kind of ideal. But I'm purposely going to choose this one because it's one of the challenging ones to work with, and it'll hang kind of weird, right? So I'm going to start by migrating this to my optimization playground project that I've been working with, which is, oh, I was going to say, hopefully it wants to work today. Here we go. So now we have this mesh. Now in the previous videos when I converted to a skeletal mesh, I had done it, before, like I had changed the nanite on here, reduced the poly count, done all that stuff. And then when I converted, I realized that it doesn't actually matter, because depending on your workflow, like what you're doing with it, you can just convert it like this if you're not planning on using this static mesh at all after the fact. So I'm just going to convert it, but now you can see that the material function's making it hang kind of goofy. The reason why is because there's actually a bone up here, I believe, that it's hanging off of. So we're going to look. Let's see if it shows all bones. Yeah, so that's the pivot point, and it's because there's a bone there. So that's why it looks janky and probably will never look good. But bones can be used to create these pivot points. So that comes up with collision bodies and stuff later, but there's different ways to rig these things. So where are we going here? I'm just going to turn that bone thing off. I'll get out of the skeletal editing tools. So we're going to first start by doing a triangle reduction. This one is, oh, I got to look back at that other one actually. 1606 fallback triangles. So I'm going to do that. Drops my triangle count way down. Now the thing is that with doing cloth painting, this would work as is because I'm not having to create a morph target. But if I was creating any morph targets on this thing, like on the other videos where I have deformation and stuff like that, you'll want to export it from the editor and bring it back in. Same thing with like chaos. If you're lowering the poly count of a static mesh and then you want to use it for chaos destruction, export it from the engine, bring it back in as a baked version, or do it in a sub project is kind of ideal. And then when you export those to your project, there'll be the low poly version that you can use geometry collections in yours. And when you fracture them, it'll be the appropriate poly count. So that's on video 2. Going to go over that. But as for this one, again, 1606 is our fallback triangles. We have this. This is now reduced. It doesn't need to be changed at all, so I'm not going to bother. I will remove the movement from this because it looks stupid. So I'm just going to go into here and just totally turn off wind entirely. And now it's just statically sitting. The next thing is you'll notice it doesn't have a physics asset, so I have to make one of those. I'm just going to do a sphere for right now because it'll show the deformation here in a second, or that, not deformation, the chaos cloth here in a second, because it's gonna shape itself around this. I'll make it like this big, I guess. We'll see what happens. Okay, so you want to start by going to this, create clothing from section, and because first time I did this video that my computer crashed, I didn't apply this right away. You want to apply those right away. Okay, so now your cloth data is applied, and you can activate cloth painting. And then I can change the strength and all of that on this to not have it paint 100% white right off the start. But I'm kind of showing this as though it's a loose piece of cloth. So this is like as, yeah, it's as painted as it gets. If you paint lower values, it'll allow the cloth to be more stiff, and that'll allow you to kind of like mold around a certain shape because this is physics based. So now you can see that it's sitting around that sphere. And if we open this up, you can see how it's sitting around their sphere. So if I go in here, I can actually change the shape, and the cloth will fall back around the sphere, right? So say we wanted to do that, maybe align it a little bit this way. Good enough, because it's not going to be perfect. This is just an example. But now when I drag this mesh in, it falls around its sphere, and it has physics. It looks pretty good. So I don't know what's going to happen if I actually activate physics on the skeletal mesh. I would imagine it's not going to be good, but we're going to see. Experimenting. Oh, that's kind of cool. It like wraps around the collision shape as it rolls around. Interesting. So yeah, that's how you can convert a Nanite static mesh that was, I don't even know how many triangles now because it's, oh, 272,568 down to 1604. Has now chaos physics on it, or chaos cloth physics as well. I'm going to turn that off. And the last thing I want to look at, because I like seeing this, is the wireframe. Not super complicated. Doing what you want. It's got physics. It's pretty awesome.